In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a custom weapon mod for Mordhau with the new client-side loading method. So, to start out, first you need to download the client objects zip file right here. And once you did that, go ahead and unzip it and drag it into your maps folder in the Mordhau directory. After you have the client skin loader map all installed, you should see these 4 items in it. And next you want to create a folder inside of your maps folder that's going to be your own. I already have one right here. It's called Todd's Weapons. And basically I just like to keep things kind of organized with all the names. But let's go ahead and just create a folder inside of here. We're going to name this one Executioner 2 because I already have Executioners. Alright, so now that we have our folder set up inside of our maps folder, we're going to right click, we're going to create a new blueprint class, and we're going to search for the weapon that we want to replace. This one's going to be the Executioner Sword. And for this one, you're going to look for the Executioner Sword that's under equipment, not equipment parts. So this is the main one we're looking for. And we're going to name it BP underscore executioner mod. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to create a blueprint class, and we're going to look for the specific part that we want to change. So this one's going to be the special executioner sword blade. Now we can name this one BP underscore mod part. Alright, so big difference between these two. The main executioner blade is going to hold everything about the executioner weapon. So the main thing we're interested in this is the skins. So we're going to replace this one right here. And in this blueprint, this is just going to be what holds the mesh. You won't mess with any of this stuff or the color, depending on if you have an actual color image that you're going to change. But this is the main thing we're going to worry about. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and grab our client skin loader map skin mod right here. So we're going to create a child blueprint class off of this, and I'm just going to name it custom weapon. Alright, so now that we created a child off of this, let's scroll down and we're going to move it to our folder that we made. Alright, so now we should have 3 different blueprints in here. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to export a weapon. So we're going to go to our assets folder under the Mordhau directory, and we're going to look for the weapon that we want to export. This one's going to be the Executioner Sword, and we're going to find the one that we want. I want this one right here, so let's go down to Asset Actions and then Export. And I already have it right here, but you can export as an FBX file. So now that we exported our Executioner Sword, let's go ahead and import it to Blender. I already have everything imported here, just to speed up the video a bit. So I separated both of them just by a container. This is the new one, this is the old one. I'm going to relook at the imported Executioner Sword, the original one. You're going to find armature, bones, and then the mesh down here. The main thing we're interested is this, just these things right here, all 4 of these. Now for our weapon right here, we want to make sure that we have it lined up correctly. So we want to make sure it matches the scale and the size, because it's gonna make it match up in game. This one's just an example. The length is a little bit off, but the handles should work for the most part. And just get this lined up. And one thing I like to do is once I have it set, I want to make sure that my new weapon is set and selected. I want to go to Object right here, Apply All Transforms. This will just set everything to 0, so whenever you import it, it's not going to be way off in the distance. Alright, so now what we can do is, let's just go ahead and delete our executioner blade, just the mesh, not the actual armature. So make sure you're clicking on this little triangle right here and just delete it. So now we just have the bone structure right here and then an empty, which we're not going to use. So let's go ahead and grab this, just hold and shift, and then we're going to drop it inside of our mesh. You may have to do it twice just to get it inside of the container if you have a container. Alright, so now you can kind of see that the bone is pretty big. To fix that, one thing I always do whenever it comes to adding a new weapon into Mordhau is we're going to click on this topmost armature, and we're going to make sure that the scale is 0.01, 0.01, 0.01. And just a note, you want to make sure that your armature is set up like this, the names. So you want, for this little guy right here, armature. For this one right here, armature. And then for the bottom one, you want weapon. So this is going to be the actual bone. But next, let's go ahead, make sure everything's correctly positioned in the center just one more time. And then we're going to click on our mesh. So now we want to actually tie the bones to our mesh. So for here, we're going to go to our little wrench right here, and we're going to add a modifier called armature. Now we want to add our armature. It should automatically pop up, and then what we're doing is we're adding this to this. We're tying them together. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and just do one more check and make sure everything's good. I want to make sure that this is still set to 0.01. We're not going to apply transform on this because it'll mess up the interactions in game. But now that we have all that set, let's just go ahead, I'm going to delete this empty, and we can export. For this, we're going to export as an FBX. Okay, so we're going to navigate to a folder that we have set. I'm going to name this one Custom XE. Now for the export settings. I already have a preset set up, but I'll go through all of this real quick. So you want to make sure just all of these are unchecked. You just want the armature mesh and others. I have custom properties checked. I'm not sure if it's actually necessary. Scaling all local, Z up. Make sure apply unit is off. And then you want to make sure the node type for the armature is set to null, and then only deformed bones. So now that we have our name set, folder set, let's go ahead and export. And we're going to go to our executioner 2 that has our 3 blueprints inside of it. Now we're going to grab our custom XZ FBX and just drag it and drop it right onto the folder. So here we're going to set up our skeleton. For this specific weapon, you want the executioner blade skeleton. And make sure everything just looks all right. Okay, so now we're going to import all. If you get a warning that you're going to change the bones, go back and make sure that the armature is tied to the mesh in Blender. Make sure it's all set up just like this. So you have armature, armature, weapon. And make sure that the top armature right here is set to 0.01. on the X, Y, and Z. All right, so we're going to go ahead and delete this physics asset because we're going to use the in-game one. And we're just going to double click and make sure it looks okay. All right, so that looks all right. So let's go ahead and save it. And I'm just going to create a material. And this one's just going to be okay here. And I'm going to really quickly just import all of my textures. All right. So now that I have all my textures imported, I'm going to drag them. We're going to create a material. All right, so we have the base color, we have our normal, and then this one I'm guessing is metallic roughness. All right, so metallic and roughness, and probably ambient occlusion. Excellent. So let's go ahead and hit apply and save, and we can leave this. So now let's go ahead and open up our custom weapon and drag the material onto here and right there. All right, doesn't look perfect, but for a tutorial, that's fine. All right, so now we're going to scroll down. We're going to make sure our skeleton is still set to the executioner blade skeleton. And then we're going to go to our physics asset. This is one thing you want to make sure is set, or you won't be able to pick up the weapon in game. All right, so let's look for the executioner. And then for the special executioner blade, there's one called executioner sword physics 1. The other executioner sword parts, you're going to want to use the first one. Okay, so now that's all set. Now we have almost everything ready. Okay, so now that we have our mesh all set up the way that we want it, we're going to go into our executioner mod, the main blueprint, and we're going to search for skin. And we're going to scroll down and find the skin that we want to replace, which is the special variant. And we're going to grab our part blueprint right here, drag it, and just drop it right on top of that. Okay, make sure it looks all right. And we can go ahead and leave this. So now let's open up our part. And this is where we want to drag our mesh. Okay, and drop it right there. The auxiliary skeleton mesh, you don't have to worry about it unless you're doing a longsword, because this is where the pommel goes. But all of this looks all right, so let's go ahead and save it. And now let's go into our custom weapon blueprint that we created from the client skin loader map. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add an element to this. And what we're going to put here for the original blueprint class is our original executioner sword, which is this one right here, not the modded one, but this one. And then for our modded equipment class, you can go ahead and select it from here, or you can easily just grab it right here and drop it onto there. I like to check this because sometimes it doesn't work if you don't. Okay, so let's go ahead and compile. Excellent. Now everything is set up. We want to actually cook the custom weapon. We're going to go to our project settings. You can get it from the settings tab right here. Just open up project settings, and then we're going to search for cook. And this one, I'm going to find my Executioner 2 blade. And we're going to look for the custom weapon right here. So I'll make sure that this is set to the custom weapon because this will cook all of the stuff that we need. Alright, so let's just make sure all of this is saved. Alright, that all looks good. Okay. So I'm not going to show you how to cook anything because there's plenty of videos online how to do that. Um, but let me go ahead and cook mine and we'll get to the setup in another video.